Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture to see how those incidents may or may not affect our daily lives. Listen, no live video today. I keep telling y'all life's for me, so I have to get in where I fit in, child. So we are going to do we're doing Trial Watch. This is the Jonathan Majors daily update. This is day 10. If you start from the beginning, it's day 10 of the Jonathan Majors trial. No stunts and shows, no shenanigans, just some straightforward stuff. But I thought I would do something different. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And once you subscribe, you'll be open to a plethora of videos where I do movies reviews, I do television reviews, I do incidents in pop talk culture, and I'm also doing trial watch, child. I know a lot of you all are here because of my Jonathan Majors reporting, and I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate you all rocking with me. I really do appreciate it. So consider subscribing. Remember to tell a friend, tell a kin, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos, child. So let's get into this. So we are at day 10. There were several witnesses that took the stand, most notably the police officers, the initial responders that were there in the penthouse on the 25th at 11:15, 11:20 ish on the day, coming in on Miss Jabari and Mr. Majors after she sprawled out in the closet, stiff like a board. So we were going to do this. First of all, let me share my screen. I've got plenty of screens to share. I keep telling y'all I need a So first of all, I do want to continue to shout out Dani Does Law and Policy. She's on Twitter. She is on Facebook. Y'all go follow her. She is a non-reporter in the courtroom, and she's giving us play-by-plays. What the reporters are choosing to omit because of things are not sensationalized. She's giving us a play-by-play about what's going on with each person that testifies. She goes over what each from the prosecution and from what the defense. She gives her opinion about uh, what the jury is seeing. She goes through the courtroom and what she's seeing. One of the things that stood out, I think I saw her on. There's several YouTubers that are following this Jonathan Majors trial. Go follow Chillmonger. Go follow the Dre Max Show. Go follow Dr. Hines. Go follow Kat. She's doing in-depth analysis of the information. These are YouTube channels that are following this case. There's several others, and if I did not call your name, charge that to my head, not my heart. I will try to make a list and go support them and go follow them. A lot of us are smaller YouTubers that are following this and carrying this. So if you see somebody like myself that's under 1,000, hey, tell a friend, tell a kid, tell that heifer that you can't stand that we're over here making these videos and have them subscribe to us. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to follow tweets today. So I'm going to juxtapose that. We're going to follow Dani's tweets, and she also has this listed on her first Facebook page. We're going to follow Dani's tweets, and we're going to follow uh, Miss Victoria. Let me see if let me stop sharing. I think I need to share the entire screen. There. That way it'll let me go. Great. It'll let me go from Danny's page to Victoria's page because we're just going to scroll down. So we're going to start with Victoria in the morning. Hold on, y'all. I keep telling y'all, I keep telling y'all, and I keep telling y'all. I need a producer. Too bad I can't find old dude that the person that the very first witness in the case. Too bad I can't find him. He does such great Adobe work. I'd love to have him on my page. Anyway, Let's keep going. So here we have Victoria Biekempis. Good morning from the 100 City Center Street. And a little fun fact, the whole incident happened about 3 or 4 blocks away from where they're at. Whoo! I wonder did he run by the police station? Y'all know I throw humor in it, and as it is, because it's late at night right now, and as I figured I'd go ahead and do this recording before I go to bed, so I get a little silly before I'm sleepy. So just bear with me, people. So this is she records Jonathan them getting out, and also too I've noticed too. I don't know if it's her or if it's somebody else that every time they get out, or particularly when they're walking in the courtroom, they always ask them the silliest questions about what's going on. But let's see if they're going to do that here. I don't know. I don't hear this. I hope you all hear it, but I don't hear it. So this young lady, that's Megan Good's mother, and then that's Jonathan Major's mother. Don't they say look similar? Something about their moms look similar to me. I don't know. It could just be me, but they were just getting out of the car. They're coming into the courtroom. There was some business before trial. Defense is asking about scheduling things. Defense wants this is going to be Thursday a.m. So that's the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Who we still must have prosecution witnesses for tomorrow. Judge says that charge conference would follow last witness, whenever that will be. Da 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 da. So she's talking about what is she talking about? Judge says a charge conference will follow the last witness, whenever that would be. Very important. Nobody should read into the fact that we don't know if he's testifying yet. And they're talking about Jonathan Majors and whether or not he's testifying. I hope he doesn't testify, but people are speculating that he will, simply because of those out of context text messages. People are wanting him to clarify what those texts are, but those texts have no bearing about what happened on March the 25th. And that's the thing that people don't like. I think a lot of times we're so busy wanting to know all the information, we don't look at the fact that that information doesn't have any bearing on what's going on. Did the prosecution bring them up? Of course they would. That the prosecution's job is to get a conviction. So they're going to throw the kitchen sink. But just because they throw the kitchen sink, everything in the kitchen sink is not necessarily supposed to hit. And so the judge has made that firmly aware. So we don't know if he's going to testify. I hope he doesn't testify. I hope he's not one of those Virgos that feel like they always have to tell their story, even though they might come across a certain way. Because the key is you want to be able to show, and all the witnesses, most of the witnesses have shown that he was not the aggressor. The driver testified yesterday. The driver testified that he was not the aggressor, and that was the whole point. They charged him with assault, intentional assault, reckless assault, and harassment. The driver clearly shows that in that whole situation, he was not the aggressor. I know people say, "Well, he pushed her back. He did this." There, New York law says you can do reasonable amount of force to get somebody off you. You can do reasonable amount of force when someone takes your property, and that was reasonable amount of force. Remember, he was fleeing. He had his property. He was fleeing. And that's important to know. I know a lot of times we get so caught up in these social issues, we forget that everything that he did, everything that has been shown and as evidence and been testified to, it shows that he uh, was fleeing from this woman. He was getting her property. She was the aggressor. That is what the driver said. She was the one hitting him. She was the one When he was trying to push her back to make her stay, that he was going to go, she was getting out of the car to follow him. She was screaming, she was hollering at him. And I'm curious as to wondering why they didn't want to uh the sound is what I'm looking at. Wonder why they don't want to show the sound, because there is a particular incident where she met the three people in Lafayette Street and they were leaving. There is some sound evidence that showed that she was screaming and she was hollering at him. I'm curious. I think I know the answer, but in all fairness to the defendant, I think that sound should have been played. If you're going to play, if you're going to let us hear text, read text from a whole year ago, we definitely should be able to hear the sound from whatever happened that day. But let's keep going. I personally don't think Jonathan Majors is going to testify, but we'll never know. I also predicted that we would be out of here last Friday, but you see how that goes. So she starts. A police officer who responded to the Chelsea apartment on March 25th is on the stand. He said that Grace Jabari looked confused and dazed. Jabari, he said, remarked, "How did I get here?" We tried to explain, and she said, like, is he out there? We are seeing body cam footage of Jabari in the closet floor of the Chelsea apartment. Officer also said, "I noticed the middle right finger was very bruised. She was complaining about the pain as well. She mentioned her ear and the back of her head." We're on cross. Lest anyone accuse the media about not being transparent for not publishing the body cam footage, a reminder: the judge has barred the release of trial evidence. We'd love to show trial evidence, but we can't get it because of judge's decision. So this isn't on us. That's interesting, because up here we notice she doesn't say which officer, who's the officer. She doesn't give any names or anything like that. It's just the officer. Uh, do you recall what Jabari was wearing at the time? I do not recall. Do you recall what she was wearing? Anything below her waist? No. No, you don't recall, or no, she wasn't wearing anything. He said no, as in he did not recall. She indicated that She indicated to you that she had taken 2 blue sleeping pills, right? He said he didn't recall. Pressed on this again, he said he didn't recall. You asked what happened to her finger, correct? And she also asked you why her ear hurt, correct? You ever look at Mr. Bari's phone? No. All right. Let's put this up here. This is important. And now we're going to juxtapose that with Dani Does Law. Let's see. Let's go down. I should have started here. All right, let's go here. Witness number 9, Officer Lucerio, aka Officer Amnesia. Largely unremarkable in his testimony on both direct and cross. Did not recall much of anything, and even with his body cam footage being played back, he played done. Fun times had for all. So this is the officer I'm assuming that she's talking about here. The difference is we know who the officer's name is. Mainstream reporters, Dani. Now, I'm not going back and forth on this to say that one is better than the other, but I am just trying to show that media has a job. They need for you to go over there and they need for you to click. And so they don't mind giving you bits and pieces of stuff, because again, they already have the way that they're going to operate in this case. They already have this. So they're not really reporting on every little issue. They're just saying, "Oh, okay, well, we're just going to hit this and we're going to hit that." So you remember that day, the text messages Friday, the text messages were the main thing. But there were so many other witnesses that testified on that day that had uh more palpable important things, and they didn't touch that. And so you hear a lot of people now, but anyway, we're not going to go there. Uh, I'm going to save that for Saturday when I talk about uh, how uh, how people are responding online to this case. We'll talk about that later. So he was witness number 9. Officer Amnesia, that's Officer Lucero. We know who this is. She gives him a nickname and she keeps going. Did recall helping Jabari write the domestic incident report. He wrote the first page and a half and she wrote the rest and recalled accompanying her to Bellevue. Notably, he no longer works for the NYPD and is now working for Suffolk County PD Long Island for the past 3 months. So, zero accountability to be had, hence why he can't recall anything. One of the things that I've noticed too with New York, there is a YouTuber called Lisa Cabero. She has a video. I think I just watched it earlier today or maybe yesterday, but she has a video outlining the white cops in New York City, how they're leaving to go to uh, different precincts or different places outside of, I guess, Manhattan and the boroughs. They're going out to the county and everything like that to be police officers. They're leaving um, the NYPD. She has a video about it, and she has an interesting take on what's going on with that. Just a side note. Let's see. Where are we? Did I? Child, I done moved away from Danny. Sorry, y'all. Running my mouth. I done moved away. All right. So she says that they play the 911 call. This is interesting because a lot of people said that they weren't going to play the 911 call because it didn't paint Mr. Majors in a good light playing that 911 call. Now, Danny says a 911 call was played. Unfortunately, the audio was pretty low and muffled, but you could definitely make out that Jonathan is distressed and worried. The dispatcher asked him to remain on the phone the entire time until the first responders arrived. Explained why he was on the phone on the body cam videos. He explains how he found her and had to be let into his own bedroom by the building attendant and described Jabari's physical appearance and age. When asked, he said he didn't know if she took anything. And she just put a little blurb right here. Hopefully somebody heard more than one did, because it was difficult to her to hear where she was sitting because there was a lot of noise outside and they leave the windows open in the courtroom. Child, they need an air conditioner or something in those courtrooms. So we're gonna go over here to Victoria. We're talking about the police. Based on your experience and training as a police officer, do you think Mr. Jabari had fallen? Objections abstained. He said he didn't recall asking had she fallen. Cross trying to suggest that Jabari was unstable, true aggressor. Returning to the officer's body cam footage. Did you have the opportunity to observe Mr. Major's coat at this time? Yes. Question: what did you observe about his coat? Answer: I believe that there was a button missing or something. Police officer now being asked about domestic incident report that Jabari completed at the hospital. Majors had already been arrested at this point. He's been showed a copy of said report. Now remember, they testified that he wrote 1.5 pages with Mr. Jabari writing the blurb on the second page. He said he's been shown a copy of said report. He also said he didn't see any blood or vomit in the apartment. This is Officer Lucera, and he's done testifying. Another cop testifying said the initial call we got was that a female had overdosed and tried to commit suicide. He said he didn't see any evidence of that. When I turned to look at the nightstand, I noticed that there was a small amount of blood on the comforter. Okay. He went over to talk with her, plus other officers in closet. Jabari said that she was struck in the head several times and that the defendant had grabbed her by the throat. This is in that report. Remember, those charges were dropped because she said that she didn't say that. There's no indication on whether or not that was on the thing, because again, in the courtroom, they're not allowed to hear the sound. I don't think the jurors are allowed to hear the sound, but we're just going to go over these little things and then we're just going to kind of go over everybody else's testimony. Cross starting, Major's attorney Seth Duckerman's questioning. We're getting to questions about his observations. Did you photograph the comforter? He said no. Did you preserve the comforter? He said no. Isn't it protocol? If you don't think that there's suicide, then what's the next protocol for you to believe is going on? Interesting. He said he didn't observe blood elsewhere in the apartment. Also, he said he didn't see vomit. Okay, I can't understand why it's so hard to see some of my more recent tweets on the thread. So I don't know what happened to the rest of her three tweets, but that's where I see she ends. She may have other tweets we can check. Let me go down. This is that. Okay, so do we start here? All right, so let's go to Dani stuff because her stuff is difficult. She's not keeping it in any kind of order. All right, so we talked about the 911 call. Here we have witness 10, Sergeant Bryant Hanson, aka the choker. I guess this is the sergeant. This is the one that was indicating that the officer on yesterday or Friday indicated that that they had talked about had indicated to Mr. Barr, did he strangle you? Did he strangle you? Yeah, more of the same kind of generic and repetitive testimony, even with body cam footage. His camera was notably positioned strangely enough that not much could be seen below the neck level. 22-year-old NYPD vet with only approximately 2 years as a sergeant spent a month in the academy training for his promotion. This is the ultimate decision maker on arrest. Claims he checked around for pills and other evidence of attempted suicide and didn't do any evidence collection. Saw blood on the blanket but did not look elsewhere around the apartment for blood. Testified Jonathan showed him his phone and all the text messages. So remember, those text messages indicated, you remember that the text message that we saw right up at the top? Uh, no note, only you'd know. So we see that. We don't know what happened above that, but that's the first text that we saw. So he showed him the text. Indicated to Officer Swain. Officer Swain was the first officer to testify that he grabbed. I want is that his own neck to get him to ask Jabari more questions. So I guess when he did this, he was gesturing to the other officer to ask for more questions. Is that police NYPD protocol for ask more questions? Okay. Testified that Jabari told them that she was struck in the head several times and that the defendant grabbed her throat. Accompanied Jabari to the hospital and the body cam footage throughout his time with her. It evidently shows her using her right hand not only to text in regular intervals, but dig into her purse and adjust her clothing. So this is when she was at Bellevue. Interesting. Let's go back. We're going to go up. Here we go. Ben Toddy. Now, you remember a few videos back, I talked about the friend that Grace Jabari's went back to the apartment with, and he was trying to help her, and he wanted her to leave the apartment, and she said she wouldn't. And this is during the time when the partial, he was still in, Mr. Majors was in jail, and a partial restraining order was set. Ben Toddy, largely unremarkable as far as his testimony, but he's just like his British counterparts with the over-explaining yes and no answers. He's been living in NYC for 8 years and has been Jabari's manager for that long and personal friend for half that long. He also says he's Holly's friend and colleague. Okay. He was very dramatic in describing how he perceived her to feel, and despite speculating and exaggerating, was allowed to continue through several defense's objections. He sat with Jabari during the 3-hour stay at Bellevue Psychiatric Ward and said that her demeanor was one that he had not recognized before. It's much smaller personality, and Grace was half the person I've seen before. Toddy also testified that he went back to the apartment with her after contacting Jonathan Manders Priya and helped her pack. So they went to the apartment to pack up her belongings. He too tried to persuade Grace to go to a hotel and to speak to her sister, but she refused to go and wanted to sleep. Now remember this right here. Please remember this. Because this is the thing that's confusing to us lay people. Here you are, it has now been exposed, and everyone is trying to ask you to leave the apartment and to go someplace else, because remember, she still has the credit card, so she still can be able to spend on that credit card. She has a sister that lives there, plus she has this man that who is her friend and who books gigs for her and her manager. She has that place to go, but she's choosing to stay in the apartment. Not she's choosing to stay in the apartment and to not leave and not go anywhere. And again, I asked this question: what is going on with this sister that during an emergency you couldn't go stay with your sister? On cross, he admitted that he did not know if Grace ever left the apartment as he suggested. Defense rested after asking him three questions. One other in which he admitted to having his flight paid by the DA. But he lives in New York and has been here for 8 years. What flight is they paying for him? Did they pay for him to go or did they pay for him to come back? Sure. We're not gonna make this long. And then we have let's see, we have the witness, uh Josie Torelli. Now she's supposed to be the domestic violence witness. Let's see what she has to say about her. And then we're gonna go over to Victoria and find her tweets and juxtapose it. Graduated from Columbia in 2006, licensed clinical social worker, consults in DV trauma and sexual violence, and specializes in interpersonal trauma, DV, sexual violence, and intimate partner violence. Is being paid $200 an hour for the DA. This is a lot of expenditures that we see because you got one, two, three, possibly four people that you pay to and from the UK. And now, mind you, I know they're not flying first class, but still. Now you've got somebody who's there for $200 an hour, and you know they pay her for the hour, even if she's sitting there waiting to go on to be to testify. So I would make the assumption she had all those other witnesses to go before she went. So you're looking at she's probably been there about 4, 5, 6 hours. I'm gonna say at least in the morning time. Anyway, lackluster. Felt like we were in a psychology 101 lecture. Jury was bored, and on one even fell asleep. Oh my God, today. Most of her testimony was psychobabble. The majority of Americans now learn on TikTok. Claim that the physical violence is not always hitting someone, but then use choking as the only example. Nothing she offered as an expert opinion applied to the case at hand, and as she was only allowed to speak in very general terms. And you remember the judge ruled on that yesterday, that she couldn't get into depth. She couldn't say how what's going on in this case or anything like that. She had to speak in generalities. However, on Cross got snarky and Zuckerberg shook things up and woke us up as an added bonus, but getting her to concede the following. She's only testified in 3 defense cases, only one big criminal where she did not testify. Ooh, she made $200 an hour, sat out there and didn't testify. Mm, mm, mm. She never worked with someone traumatized by false allegations. That's that's huge. That's a huge thing to say. Uh, what kind of trauma happens to folks who've been falsely accused? She supposedly just learned about the Jonathan Majors case last night, despite being contacted months ago by the DA. The jury person, this is her notes, likes the Z man, that's what she calls him. That there is no way to look at someone and tell if you've experienced trauma. She never worked with someone who faked trauma. Denied being biased, but claims she has a different worldview about DV due to her profession. That not every disagreement or argument is intimate partner violence. And that's key. Because a lot of times people think because you have an argument with your partner and you all are fussing and carrying on, that oh my gosh, that's domestic violence because you had an argument. No, if you have an argument with your significant other, that's domestic violence. No, that's an argument with your significant other. Domestic violence encompasses a whole lot besides an argument. Court adjourned. It was 4:30, so this is to be continued. So these were the These were the many witnesses that testified today, and that was a long courtroom. Now remember, we're over here with Victoria, and I wanted to give an opportunity to find her tweets. Let's see. And we're on cross. Break until 2:15. Here she is. Yeah, let's see. Who is these people she's talking about? Let's click it. Maybe it'll take us upwards. All right, so we read. All right, so here we go. We read all of this. This is what we didn't. This is what we did now. He's off the stand. We're now into Jabari's choreography talent manager. He said he received various phone calls from another client, Holly, also a client and Jabari's friend. After one of the calls, he went to the hospital for Jabari. He said she was visibly emotional. She was upset, devastated. She showed him an area behind her ear and a bruised finger. Did there come a time when you went to see a psychiatrist with Miss Jabari? I did. We were there for we were there for a number of hours, maybe 2 or 3. What was her demeanor while waiting on the in the lobby? It fluctuated from being exhausted to concerned to frustrated. She was something a few times about, and I don't know what happened. Eventually, they left the hospital, got food, went to Soho House. What was her demeanor? Exhausted. She was starting to get really tired, actually. She was shaken. They were trying to figure out the best time to go back to the apartment and pack up. All right. So that's pretty much where hers ends. We're just gonna get back large. Again, follow Dani. She has all of the thing. I didn't mean for this video to be this long or to take this long, but I did want it to go over it. This is the information that we received out of the courtroom from Victoria Biekempis, who is a journalist, versus Dani, who is a layperson like all of us, going to the court and putting information, and just the differences and how you juxtapose all the differences and things like that. What are you all thinking? Like I said, I thought I'd do change it up a little bit today just to show you the differencing of reporting and why it's important to get the information. I know a lot of people uh, want and trust a lot of the newspaper, and I'm not telling you not to, but I do want you to understand that when you watch the news, and particularly when you watch the news and it has a 24-hour spin, they're going to tell you the same things over and over and over and over again. And they're going to sensationalize the thing, because remember, they'll sensationalize all the horrific stuff, but won't talk about any of the other stuff, or they cherry pick what they want you to know, versus all the information so that you can make a better decision. So that's basically what I wanted to do today. What do y'all think? How are y'all feeling about this case? Put it down in the comments. Let me know. Tell me, from all the information that you've heard, uh, from mainstream news, uh, social media, the newspaper, if they still do those. I don't know. I hadn't had a newspaper in a long time. Wherever it is you get the news, podcasts, wherever it is you get the news in regards to this case, tell me what you think. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me at this stage of the game, you feel like he's innocent? Do you feel like he's guilty? Do you feel like you have more questions? Let me know. I'm always interested. This case is interesting to me because there were some inconsistencies that we couldn't get the information from. Uh, you heard reports of him doing a whole bunch of heinous stuff. Or a lot of people separating themselves from him. Then you see the information coming from that night that didn't make any sense, or things didn't um, add up. So tell me what you're thinking. I'd love to hear it. Again, thank you all for who are watching my videos. I really do appreciate it. And those of you all that have subscribed to me, I really do appreciate that as well. We probably have, again, this is just a prediction. We probably have 2 or 3 more days of this, and then they go into closing arguments. I don't see the jury staying the whole weekend to go over this case. So we will see what they're going to say. Again, thank you so much for watching my channel. Please remember to tell a friend, tell a kin, tell that coworker, or tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos, child. All right. We do this every week. Every week. And as always, people, bye-bye.